Well, hey everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of CX and Coffee. My name's Justin Robbins, and I do this every single week alongside my good friend
Marty Shaughnessy.
We give you the details on our social lives. We give a brand new coffee a try, and we dig deep on a topic that's going to be meaningful for you if you work in the world of customer experience. We are so glad that you chose to join us here today. And Marty, as always, it is so good to see your face.
So good to see you, buddy.
You know, it's been an interesting week here. As if you've tuned in before, you can tell I am not at home anymore.
You finally got that green screen.
Finally. The amount of times that people ask me if my background is a green screen is more often than not, Marty. You wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
This is not a green screen, but I did move out of my home office and got an office at a co-working space. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that. We are doing something crazy here today, Marty. I have 3 coffees that I'm going to be giving a try. We've got one that cost all of $5. We've got one that cost about $15, and we've got one that's a $35 bag of coffee, setting the record for the most expensive coffee tried here on CX and Coffee. We're going to line them up. I don't know which one's which. I've got them numbered here. Thank you to my wife for doing that. And then I've got a card that will reveal them here at the end. So
nice.
We will see what happens. But before we jump into all of that, what'd you get into this weekend, my friend?
I had a birthday. So I had a birthday just the other day. And so on my birthday, it started probably about 11 years ago. I have a tradition where I take the day off of work. I take myself out to lunch, and then I go to a movie. And so I continued with that tradition, and it was good. It's nice. It's a day of, I don't know, like to go to a meal and sit there alone. There's a lot of time to like kind of think. So I just think about the past year, what I want to do. It's kind of like my New Year's in a sense. It's more resolution-y, or just kind of looking back and appreciating what I have and just being thankful for things. So
I like that.
My birthday tradition. Yeah.
I love that you do that. I remember I don't know that it was the first one, but I definitely remember the early days of you doing this and thinking that is such a cool idea. So Marty, take yourself out to a movie. Is it a rom-com? Is it the new animated feature film? What'd you go see this year?
Well, unfortunately, the period between Christmas and I guess maybe Valentine's or whatever, the beginning part of the year is usually kind of thin. So I ended up going to see The Brutalist, which was Adrian Brody, and it's 3.5 hours. There's a built-in 15-minute intermission. I don't want to go into like a movie review, but it's complicated because it felt a little. First of all, I didn't realize it wasn't based on a true story. So I watched the whole movie thinking that this was a real person, and I discovered when I got home that it wasn't, which made it even more complicated because at points the movie feels like an art house film, and then it goes into like a historical drama, right? And there's things that happen, there's time jumps, there's things that I felt weren't explained properly, which even more because it wasn't a real person, just felt like there were holes in the thing. So 6 out of 10, I guess, you know what I mean? First of all, I wanted to see if I could do a 3.5 hour movie. That was no problem. And I didn't like not like it, but I feel like you have to be a cinephile. Is that the proper term? Like somebody who's really into movies, you know, to be into it. And there were some cool things or things I appreciated about it, but I wouldn't say I loved it or enjoyed it or would recommend it.
Okay, that's all right. How was lunch?
Lunch was good. There's a really good Mexican place right next door. So they're always super friendly there. The food comes out fast, and it's always what you'd expect. Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff. Have you ever been to any of these? I think they're called, at least the one I was at, I think was called like Draft House Cinema or something, where it's a restaurant and a movie theater. What's your take on that vibe?
I've only gone to one, and it was one of those things. There was actually a conference that was close to one, and I saw it, and I walked over. It was real close to the hotel, and I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it was a little weird because of you've been to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the height and where the Waitron walks is like kind of like around your knee area. So it's a weird kind of like you're watching the movie and you're handing them, like, oh yeah, can you bring me a burger? And I'll try this IPA, please. So, but I think the experience is cool. And I've gone to there's other theaters where I've had like the food experience, at which, the place I go to is Flagship Cinemas, and it's the recliners. And I mean, that's ruined. I could never go to another movie theater again. I think, knowing where I'm going to sit ahead of time, knowing that I can kick back if I want to, even if there's a stranger next door, you don't feel like you're sitting, it's not like a plane where you're kind of like touching elbows and stuff. So,
Yeah. There was the reserved seating with the leather recliner is the way to do it. It feels wrong any other way.
yeah. Well, and it makes you think back to like when I remember, walking in a little late and you're with, a bunch of your friends and you're like looking around and like, where can I get, where are there four, where can four are together? Way over there. Do you want to go over there? And like, you're standing in front of people, it's kind of like a puzzle that you're trying to solve. So yeah, no, I like it's effortless. So I really appreciate it.
That's good. I know there were plenty of times in my youth where we got there late and the only row was the front row. So then you're watching
Yeah.
like that the whole time.
Yeah.
It explains the neck issues I have now. I blame it all on the unreserved seating.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. So as you know, I'm a little Star Wars geek, and so when Empire Strikes Back came out, which is an '80, so I was 9. I rode my bike. We probably lived like 5. I rode my bike like 5 miles to the theater to see it by myself, and so I'm sitting there. I don't know what grade I would be in, but there were some girls who were older than I was, like a few rows back, and I'm sitting there waiting for the movie, and I'm all excited, and I hear, "Look at that kid sitting by himself. He must have social problems." That affected Justin. I still think about that to this day.
I don't think you have social problems. I think you're
That's probably
incredibly.
why I go to the movies by myself, just to keep working through it.
I think you're very well adjusted, Marty. Good. Well, I'm glad you had a good birthday, and even though the movie wasn't awesome, I love that you do that on your day. So that's fun.
So is your office like fully moved in? Are we only seeing like is it a mess on the other side of the screen, or is it pretty good? Boxes?
We're pretty good. I still have 2 totes that I wasn't sure furniture wise what I would need for some things.
Yeah.
It's it's an interesting adjustment. I had gone through my list of items. I was like, oh, I'm probably going to want or need that. And I'd say I got it right about 50%. There was 50% of things that I'm like, nah, I definitely don't need this here. And over the last 2 days, I've been taking that back home. But then there's the 50% of, I need that. Like I've got this window behind me, which is, wonderful, but I didn't think of, at a certain time of day, does the sun come directly through that window? Turns out it does. So I've got to get a blind for that. Also recognizing that, with me having my office door shut, not having a dedicated thermostat, even though it's a delightful temperature in the building with my door closed, it gets warm. So I've got a nice tower fan coming, right? It's little things like that where there'll be the lived-in touches, and I've got one thing hung on the wall, but the rest of the walls still need some love, Marty. Still need some love.
You'll get there.
Yeah. I also found these really cool hooks that I can use to hang stuff on brick, which I'm super excited about.
That doesn't dig into the brick?
No. They just clip onto the brick. So we'll see. Update next week on CX and Coffee. If there's stuff hanging on my wall behind me, they work. If there's not, they didn't. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It was good kind of getting ready for this. And we had a soccer tournament in Raleigh with my older son. So we were there all weekend, but Monday morning was very giddy, right? It's like everything was good to go and just wanted to get get through it, right? It's like I want it to be at this point where it's like, okay, I know what's where, and I feel like this is my space, but the commuting thing is still, that'll take a little bit to get used to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Whenever you mix up the routine, but it'll be a good thing for you, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it will be. It will be. And I want to before we are done today, I want to share just some of my thoughts on why I did this because I got that question a fair bit. It's like, gosh, you had a good home office. Like, why leave that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before
We
we
just gotta
do,
get into the coffee then.
we do because I've got some cups that are sitting here, and I'm excited to give this a try. So here's where it starts, and I'm not gonna smell anything ahead of time, but I'll give you an idea of the range that we're going with here. So our $5 coffee will be Maxwell House, 100% Colombian. Uh,
Classic.
it's a medium roast that is deep and robust from the first sip to the last.
Sounds good.
The OG, right? It's
It
the
is
OG.
guilty. Mm-hmm.
Our $15 coffee. I do not have a bag of it here with me, but my office is at a co-working space called Common Desk, and Common Desk has their coffee brewed by Counterculture Coffee. I've enjoyed a number of Counterculture coffees that I've tried over the years. You can typically, if you get them at a big box retailer, can usually find bags somewhere between $12 and $18 if you go onto their website. They've got some really nice roasts that get into the 20s and up. But today we're going with the Common Desk House Blend from Counterculture Coffee, which we're approximating a retail on that about $15. And then lastly, the $35 is an experimental anaerobic Columbia Las Palmas from Square One in Lancaster. And what's interesting about this coffee is they actually ferment the beans with fruit. So there's fruit fermented with these beans, and then they go on about drying it and whatnot. So what was fascinating about this is, this was the last and only bag they had of this particular one. Now, I did go on Square One, and we'll put a link to it here for the show. But they have done additional versions of this, so you can pick up a bag if you want to try it. The notes on it were passion fruit, mango, and tropical candy.
Wow.
So
So you
we
would think that one would be easy to identify. I would guess that there at least should be some kind of thing that is on the nose at least immediately. I would think.
I would think so. I'll also tell you from a color standpoint, we have three very different colors here.
Okay.
One that is relatively dark to one that is quite light. So we'll see with that. But without further ado, we are going to go with mystery coffee number one.
Number one.
This is actually going to be, I think, a lot harder than. Okay, so it's really hard for me to get anything on the nose. I feel so much pressure right now, Marty.
Yeah, I know. Hey, your cred's on the line here.
Okay, so I do not think this is the Square One coffee. If I were to guess, I don't know yet. I feel like this might be the Maxwell House. It's just got it's a medium roast coffee.
It's like a coffee flavored coffee with nothing like nothing.
There's nothing jumping out about this. It's yeah, it's very it's average, right? I'm just gonna go with that right now.
Yep.
Like
You can come back.
we'll come back. We'll come back.
You kind of have to sample all three just to kind of
Yeah.
get a baseline there. Right?
So this is coffee number two. This is the lightest of the three.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain this is Square One. It smells fruity. My gosh. Yeah. There's not even a first I want to do a color difference here. I don't know how well this will come across.
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it's a bit lighter.
Now you're getting the fruit notes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This is delicious. Yeah, as of right now, I'm gonna place a bet that this is the Square One. We'll come back to I'm gonna we'll keep going, but it's a freaking good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
All right, and we got number 3, which is the darkest of the 3,
Okay.
and this has. Well, I guess I can't mess that up. I don't know. These two honestly smell pretty much identical to me. This is the Maxwell House.
Yeah.
It just doesn't taste.
It looks like it's a lot of fun. Now go back to number 1 just to make sure.
Yeah. Hang on. I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. Night and day difference. So, all right. The worst tasting coffee is definitely number 3. I'm going to bet that this is the $5 coffee. That this is Maxwell House.
Yeah.
It's funny going from Maxwell House to number 1 now. Number 1 tastes great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still what's interesting about this is I almost get it. It reminds me a little bit of the New Orleans, the Cafe Du Monde. There's like a little bit of that, like because the chicory had that almost like bitterness to it, and this has, it's like I'd this is probably like the average cup of coffee that I would expect in most places.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm going to say that this is the Common Desk House blend. I think it's probably like this is just going to appeal to the average person.
Yep.
But it is a little bitter. Marty, this is like.
Is that a party in your mouth?
It's not even, it's like the nose is freaking amazing. It doesn't like when I say it's leagues ahead of the other two. There's
It's
zero.
not like it's when drinking it isn't like a flavored creamer though, right? Like it's
No,
yeah.
no. It's almost like you know how some seltzers give you really great flavor without the sweetness?
Yeah.
Like it's almost the strength of a seltzer flavor. Like this doesn't even. I know this is coffee. You can taste the fruit, like that. That's undeniable. All right, so
let's go to the reveal.
final bet is that we've got Common Desk number 1, Square One number 2, Maxwell House number 3. All right. We've got number 1, Common Desk House Blend Counterculture. So $15 bag of coffee. So now I'm estimating the price. I'll find out which blend it is, and share more about that later, or it may be one that they have specifically done. Anyway, point is, Counterculture has a wide range of coffees. I've had some that are better than others. This one for me is it's an average coffee.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be mad about it, but at the same time, definitely doesn't stand out. Anyway, number 2, Square One, the Colombe Las Palmas. So again, $35. I was expecting and hoping and thinking that this bag would win. Now going in, it's so intense. And in the best ways. This is I love all of their coffees, and this one was so unique. I'm going to share more. Alongside these episodes, we post a blog on the Metric Sherpa website every week that I try to go into some more details on some of these things. I'm going to share more about the roasting process for this one. As I was researching it, it's just fascinating with kind of the fermentation of adding the fruit in there because, again, Marty, this is 10 out of 10 stars for being the most expensive coffee we've tried. It is absolutely the most unique, and it is
worth the price.
It's a treat. Like, it's an absolute treat. I'm so happy I have a thermos with some more of that I'm going to be able to enjoy throughout the day today. And then Maxwell House Colombian, of course, was coffee number 3. Yeah, it's so 1892. They've been roasting since 1892.
Wait, that can right there?
Yep, this can. Yeah, and you know what's here? Here's the funny part about this, Marty. The can smells delicious. Like, I love the smell of this coffee. It just stacked up against these other two. I don't think it stood a chance. But here's the thing. I grew up with Maxwell House in my home. And you know what? They've been doing it for, is that 150 years? Something like that. More than that? Less than that? I'm bad at math. A long time.
Yeah.
132 years.
Okay.
I think is the official count. If I just did math on the fly, they're okay. Come here for CX advice, not math advice. That's my recommendation. So that was fun. All right, so I think next time, Marty, what we're going to do is we're going to up the stakes, and we won't do such a split, but I was really curious, can you tell the difference between a $5 cup of coffee and a $35 coffee? Yeah, it's not even a contest, and it's pretty amazing. So shout out to all three, but we're going to give special props to Square One. This is their experimental anaerobic Columbia Las Palmas, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We'll put a link to the site as well as to this particular blend, which as of last check, you can still pick up a bag of that yourself. And I would say if there's one coffee that you're going to splurge on, absolutely let that be the one. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was cool. Now I feel sad for these other coffees because I'm definitely not going to drink them. I'm just going to let them. It's fine.
Do you have a plant there you can pour them into?
That's actually brilliant, isn't that? I probably should do that. I do. You can't see with the. I've got 4 plants in my window. They're among Gumby and my telephone and some other things.
Yeah, it's a little blown out in the video there.
That's okay. It's oxygenating my office. That's all that matters, Marty.
So healthy. I've got a bunch of fake plants in my office.
Yeah, that's okay. No judgment here. No judgment here.
It's for color.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
good. But yeah, I'm acclimating. It doesn't feel like my space yet. But gosh, Marty, I mean, I've worked from home since 2012. So you fall into a rhythm, and you get really spoiled. That's I think I realized as I was preparing for it, there's just all the comforts of home that you got to figure out what do you bring along and what do you just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. Well, and I know, I mean, I've been to your house before, and 2 steps outside your office was Coffee Central. All your different cups and mugs and makers and espresso and all that stuff is right there. So, yeah, it's just readjusting.
Yeah,
to your new scenario here.
Yeah. Also, things like sharing a bathroom with other people who aren't my family. Yeah, having the coffee bar was really convenient. Although I will tell you, it's not bad here either. It's a 3-story. Office building, and every floor has nice coffee station, kitchen, and even down in the main entryway they've got a proper coffee shop.
Oh, that's
they also have, starting at noon every day, beer and wine. And during my orientation, they're like, there's no judgment if you want to come down and have a lunchtime beer. I'm like, okay,
good to know. Good to know. We'll have to schedule one of these CX and coffee in the afternoon to see if you've given that a test run.
Oh, well, we can do that. We can definitely do that. Again, lots of things can go on the CX and coffee mug, Marty.
Right.
It is a chalice
Well,
of
anything.
anything.
All right. So you made the move. What made you like? What I've been to your office. It was great. What made you move out of there? Like what there's and how far are you from home?
Yeah.
Your commute.
Yeah. My commute, depending on traffic, is anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes.
Okay.
The office is in downtown Wilmington, which is almost exactly 10 miles from my house. What made me do it? A couple things. One, from a practical standpoint, when we had moved into our house, Marie, my wife, was not working, and about a year and a half ago, she started working in a very part-time capacity for one of our local soccer programs, and she has taken on more and more and more with that, which she absolutely loves, but has been, working from our kitchen island and being a soccer program. One of the things that she's doing is storing jerseys and materials. And so we were giving up some of our closets, or during kind of peak seasons, our dining room was being, overrun by totes of,
Yeah.
hundreds of soccer jerseys. And so one of the things we've been talking about is giving her space that she can move into. She had a desk in our bedroom, but I remember when I first started working from home, my desk was in the bedroom, and that was awful. It's like, 'cause then you never leave.
Yeah.
So that was part one. We were having a conversation on that. I think the second thing for me is, even though I've been a remote worker for, call it 13 years now, it's always been part of an organization. And there was always an office to visit and teammates to work with and conference rooms where you can just jump into and work together on a whiteboard. And now with owning my own business, and I know you definitely get this, it's like you don't have that dynamic. And it's like, of course I have friends and I've got, folks that I'm working with. So it's like I've got Nate, I've got Taya, but we're not in an office together. It's not part of a bigger thing. And with me definitely trying to balance my time at home this year even more than I have in past years, there's something in me craving just an office setting and being able to have hallway connections with other professionals and being able to be part of networking groups. Or, like yesterday, Marty, I got out of my building. I had lunch with someone downtown. It was a beautiful day, and just being able to walk downtown in a city and pop into that, there's just something about that puts me in a different headspace, and also has a social connection that was meaningful for me. The third bit was there's definitely intention and a path this year where we're going to be growing the team, and I wanted to have space that could be ours to collaborate and work and even grow from. And what's great about this is it gives me access to a whole collection of incredible conference rooms. It gives me really great functional space. It also makes me easy, whether I'm hosting an event or hosting team members, to have them be downtown. It puts us accessible to so many things. And so, it just felt like the right thing at the right time, both to enable my wife to have now her space to step into, but also just to put me in a headspace where I feel like, we're now set up for the next phase of growth and engagement that we're moving to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's great. And yeah, mixing it up and being able to grow and be flexible in your office. I think that's great.
Yeah. It's weird though. I mean, it definitely struggled with it. And what I was trying to figure out is there's, I think we see it in the media, or we know people who work for companies like this, but there's, lots of conversation right now about return to office and the why behind it and what will it impact. And I've wrestled with that in my own mind, and I joked, on social media that I was mandating, my own return to office policy for myself. But what I've found, what I've really valued is kind of just trust and autonomy always. And it's like, it didn't matter if I was remote, if I had a team that was remote, or if they were in an office. Like, I wanted to feel like we had a space where we were trusting people to work the hours they needed to get the work done, that they had the space and the freedom to do it. And from a productivity standpoint, like, honestly, Marty, again, speaking from my own experience, like, it depended on the work, and it depended on the season. Like, there were times that I was way more productive being able to, work in my home office and kind of just like crunch through something. But there were also times where I knew the only way that I was really going to get something done is for me and a couple of people to be locked in a room with a whiteboard for a day or two.
Right.
And I guess what my belief is that there's not one or the other. I think we need to find, as leaders, a way to establish a healthy balance, and to recognize that there's moments where people need to be together, but there are also moments and benefits from people being apart. But I don't know. I mean, you've been in the office thing. You've been home. I've been yammering here for a little bit. Like, what's your take? What do you value about working from home? And would you ever consider going back into an office?
Yeah, doing both is pretty important, and I agree with you. I think there's value in both situations, and maybe I think there's a little more variables as far as like personalities involved, maybe some maturity, not necessarily like the age, but just the maturity of being. I think there's some people who do great at remote work, and then there's others that maybe aren't there yet. That's the kind way of saying it. As you know, I was trying to do the music in my early 20s. I was trying to do the music thing for a couple of years. I met Cindy, and when we got married, then it was kind of like, well, the band thing, I'd given it a shot. Let me go back to design, which was what I went to school for. And so the first 7 years, I worked out of a closet space, basically. I mean, it was about the size of a twin-size bed. And I learned pretty quick that if I wasn't working, I wasn't billing, so I wasn't making any money. So you develop pretty good habits there. Then from there, I went to Hershey, and, working with a team, there's something about if we were working on a campaign and I could go from my desk to Luke, the creative writer, and we could just sit there and like, all right, so I'm thinking this, and that's magical, right? Like, it's not like, hey, Justin, can we schedule a call? I've got an idea. Yeah, sure. I can do Tuesday in morning. You know what I mean? There's this instantaneous, in-person, kind of bounce back and forth. So one, I think it depends on the work that's needed, right? You know what I mean? I push pixels. I'm a designer. I work really well on my own. Just, I love what I'm doing. I enjoy the process. So it depends on the job, what's required. It depends on the personality. You know what I mean? There's some people who are really good at being disciplined on getting things done, and then there's some people who need more guardrails or more things built in. So there's value in both. It's not, to me, it's not black and white, because I just think there's lots of factors that have to, you know what I mean? I'm in the basement. Nobody's home right now. One of my kids are at work, one's at school, my wife is at work. So I have the house to myself. There's no distractions. Where other people, if they've got young children, or maybe their pets need a lot of attention, or all those kind of things, I think that's going to affect, productivity. So I don't know. I mean, would I ever go back to the office again? I certainly miss it. I certainly, like, when you and I get together, once or twice a year, I cherish the time of just being able to brainstorm in real time.
I want to touch back on a couple things you mentioned. One was maturity of the workforce. That's a real thing. And I believe that there are ways for really good leaders to coach and develop a I'm going to call it a from scratch remote workforce. And what I mean by that is somebody who just kind of that's all that they ever know. I do believe that there is absolutely like space for that. What I think the challenge is that requires time and attention. And my observation is that unfortunately for a lot of leaders, they're just tapped out on too many other things, that giving the level of effort that it takes to coach and develop people who maybe it's not first nature for them isn't always there. And I think that's part of the challenge that we see. It's not that people aren't capable of it. I think that we as leaders, we have to pick and choose where we can invest our time, and often I think it loses out. And so the easy button is to have people in an office. But I think the concern with that is we can start to erode the trust and autonomy factor that I think is incredibly important for people to feel, no matter where they're working, at home or in the office. You need to feel like that you're trusted to do your job, that you have the autonomy to do your job. And that's at every level, right? Even somebody who's doing, entry level, highly transactional work, like, it doesn't make sense to also pay a supervisor or a leader to micromanage that to death.
Right.
So this is a widespread issue for us. That I think that for me is one of the things that I wrestle with when I think about the conversation around remote versus return to office. Is, are we creating cultures where we're fostering trust and autonomy in our workforce? And that is not a slogan. It's not a once a month, everybody get around and we rah rah rah. It's intentional coaching, and that I think is my first bit of encouragement and advice for people, is whether you're leading an office or a team or an individual that's at home or at the desk beside you. I think we need to revisit the coaching cultures that we have inside of our organizations, and making sure that we're thinking and developing the right things for our workforce. That's part one. Second, I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to take a hard look at the work to be done and to involve our people in a conversation around the most meaningful way to do that work. And then have the right measures in place to hold them accountable for driving the outcomes or not, right? If you tell me, Marty, that for this type of project, you're going to be better suited to just be down in your basement, have, some music playing in the background, and to just like crank it out, then I need to believe and trust and give you the space and the ability to do that. At the same time, if you also tell me, hey, if we really want to accelerate things, I need to get Justin and Nate and I together in a room or out on a trail or whatever it would be, we need to create the space and time to do that, and recognize that they are different types of investments, and neither's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And I've even worked for, leaders that they're like, do you really need to be in person? It's like, well, no, we don't, but we're going to sacrifice a lot by not having that accelerant. And so I think having the right things in place. Lastly is, no matter whether this is in your hands or not, in working from an office or working from home, what I think is kind of most important is to be, having candid and frequent conversations with your leader and with your teams about what really matters most. What's the work that needs to be done? And do you have the right things in place for measuring whether or not you're accomplishing it? This isn't a new conversation, but I think we like to fixate on the means by which we do work because it's easy to observe and control. But does it actually drive us the outcomes that we're looking to get, and in the most efficient means, right? Yeah. We can get there, but we can waste a lot of time, a lot of money, and create a lot of frustration and friction if we're not careful.
Yeah, and maybe this is for a different. How do you as a manager, how do you build up that trust? Because speaking frankly, I mean, I know because I've had conversations with people who do abuse the system, right? Oh yeah, I just log in and then I've got my Xbox or whatever, and I game most of the time. And then if somebody needs me, they ping me and I pick up. You know what I mean? Those are real people that I know. So in the back of your head, you don't want to put everybody in that box. But so how again, we can kick this down the road. But I mean, are there simple tips that you would to help build that trust, or is it just kind of like without micromanaging, just having real conversations? I mean, where we'll just start there.
I love this topic. We will definitely come back to this on another episode, but we won't leave today without a few specific thoughts. One, Marty, I'm a believer and advocate in just having candid, transparent adult conversations. I first off, it's probably important to know that I lend trust when I first start working with someone, right? It's like, we haven't done anything for me to trust you, but you haven't done anything for me to not trust you. And I always skew on the bias of, I have no reason to not trust you, so I'm going to lend you and say, I trust you. That's the first bit. And we will have clear conversations about expectations, right? That to me, I think, is the first tip. There is just always clearly communicate what you expect from your people. Don't assume they know. So often I see these conversations flare up where there was assumption on both sides, and it's not fair to either party.
Yeah.
So I think, one, as a leader, you need to be really clear and transparent about what you expect and be open to feedback on whether or not those expectations are reasonable and achievable and understood is part one. Second, I think that we need to be quick to clarify when something doesn't jive with us, it doesn't meet expectation, or it just sets the wrong tone.
Don't wait for the year-end review to bring it up, you mean?
Yeah, in the year-end review, don't do that.
Yeah.
No, we need to do it close to things, and we need to explain the why behind it. And again, be willing to have a conversation. Not, hey, Marty, you can't play Xbox. Well, why can't I play Xbox? I did what I was supposed to. There's nothing else waiting for me. So I think a clear understanding of the why, and again, being open to feedback. That, hey, maybe if you don't have something good to stand in the gap, well, maybe that is okay. And well, at what point isn't it okay, right? I think that's the second thing, is we've got to address things head on. I've always been a believer that the only way to work a situation out is to go straight through the middle of it, right? We can't go around it. We can't avoid things. I think is tip number 2. The third is, we need to create an environment that is safe from unnecessary consequence. And one of the things that I often see and hear from employees is the fear of what will happen if they are honest about how they feel, what they're experiencing, what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I think part of what's driving that is maybe what they experienced from a leader in the past, or what they saw a coworker experience, or even what they saw that leader do in another situation that may be completely out of context or understanding. But there's all sorts of things that can be shaping the perceptions and the biases that we have on that front. And this is where I think, again, just transparency and openness to help people see and understand that you as a leader are there to support them and to see them win, and that there are things in life that have consequence. We all understand that. Like, if we are a rational human being, we understand consequence. But we also need to see is that we create environments where it is safe for people to fail, and that it's actually celebrated when people overcome those things. So I think for me, those are some of the quick tips that come to mind in terms of creating an environment of trust. But I would love to jump into that. in another episode.
Yeah.
I also want to be mindful that between birthday celebrations and 3 different coffees and working out the psychoanalysis of why to be in an office versus home, we've taken all the time
We have taken all
for episode 12
all the time.
all the time. But happy birthday again, Marty.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a good year.
it will be a good year. And you seem wiser and more mature
Yeah.
already.
Maybe.
Maybe. Maxwell House. Deep and robust from first sip to the last. Today, you didn't get many sips of Maxwell House, but for $5 and a pinch, I mean, they've been doing it for over 130 years. Can't go wrong there. Common Desk House Blend Counterculture Coffee. I better get used to it because I'll be drinking a lot of it around here. But I am so thankful that I stopped by Square One on my trip to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, picked up the Colombe Las Palmas, because this was a joyful experience. I highly recommend this to people. And you know what, Marty, this is what I'm going to do. I would love, if you've watched this episode, I'd love, Marty asked that question about creating a culture of trust. I would love, if you've got a good tip on how to do that, leave us a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or social media somewhere, leave us a comment with your tip. And how this, Marty, I am going to look at those tips. I'm going to pick a name and I'm going to buy somebody a bag of this and ship it to their house. Because this was amazing. And let's get those tips in. If there's anything that I can do for you, that Marty can do for you, we always link to Metric Sherpa and Declan Media in the show notes. We'd be happy to serve you any way that we can. Until next time, this has been episode 12 of CX and Coffee. Marty, thank you, my friend, for hanging out with me for another week here.
You bet.
Everybody, thanks for joining in. My name's Justin Robbins. Again, I do this every single week alongside my good friend,
Marty Shaughnessy.
We'll catch you next time for a whole new brew.